Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Thursday, April 7th. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. History is being written before our eyes today as the Senate confirms Ketanji Brown Jackson as a Supreme Court Justice. She received a standing ovation in the Senate chamber as she became the first black female justice to serve on the High Court. The final vote was 53-47, mostly along party lines with the exception of 3 Republican votes. An emotional Vice President Kamala Harris, who is also the first black woman to rise to a position of high office, offered some words as she presided over the vote.
I think it makes a very important statement about who we aspire to be, who we are, who we believe ourselves to be. It's a statement about that on our highest court in the land, we want to make sure that there's going to be full representation and the finest and brightest and the best. And that's what happened today.
51-year-old Ketanji Brown Jackson will take her seat on the Supreme Court this summer when Justice Stephen Breyer retires. Jackson is also the 3rd black justice, as well as the 6th woman to serve on the Supreme Court. And for the first time in history, there will now be 4 women out of 9 justices on the bench. As thousands of Ukrainians seeking asylum flock to our border, U.S. Customs and Border Protection has conditionally opened an entry that has been shuttered for 2 years. KPBS reporter Kitty Alvarado visited Ped West in San Isidro and shows us how it is welcoming people fleeing the war.
Every Ukrainian crossing into the U.S. at the San Isidro port of entry gets a warm welcome and a big hug from a volunteer. Crossing that red line means they're on American soil. But to those fleeing the sights, sounds, and sadness of war, it means a lot more than that.
When you crossed that red line and you were officially in America, what did you feel?
At peace, happy.
He feel like everything is go down, and he feel like I'm free. Problem is gone. No bombing, no more nothing.
Щасливий, що нарешті все закінчилось.
Says he's glad that that's all behind and he's finally here.
Maria Fishoff from Encinitas is a Russian American. She was compelled to come here to help after seeing the immense suffering these new arrivals have endured. She says this joyful welcome is a symbol of hope.
I think that's about a brighter future. I think that's about just people welcoming people to a brighter future. And I think that's wonderful.
And even Customs and Border Protection is making accommodations for humanitarian reasons. Ped West has been closed for 2 years, and it's still not open to the general public. They expanded operations to allow efficient processing. Now, 5 times the number of Ukrainians can be processed. That's good news for the hundreds waiting on the other side, and perfect timing for 13-year-old Lydia Danchuk.
She's very happy. She said it was a very long journey.
Tomorrow is her birthday. She'll be celebrating in Sacramento.
What's your birthday wish for tomorrow?
She wants all her family to be together here. Her father is still back in Ukraine.
This welcome is bittersweet for Ukrainians. Leaving family, friends, and everything you know and love for the unknown is never easy.
I want to go home. When it's the war get to the end, I want to go home.
Kitty Alvarado, KPBS News.
The Russian assault on Ukraine appears to be shifting to what officials there call, quote, a most difficult situation, end of quote. Reporter Gloria Pazmino explains.
On the other hand, The United Nations General Assembly has voted to suspend Russia from the Human Rights Council as its invasion of Ukraine appears to be shifting amid more evidence of atrocities, while NATO leaders hold a critical meeting to decide how to move forward.
The sickening images and accounts coming out of Bucha and other parts of Ukraine have only strengthened our collective resolve and unity.
Meanwhile, in the war zone, Ukrainians are burying their dead, bracing for attack, and digging through the rubble. It's all part of daily life in Ukraine's eastern region. While the Russian military continues its offensive against Ukraine and forces push east, on Thursday in Brussels, Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba issued a plea for help following a meeting of NATO foreign affairs ministers.
Either you help us now, and I'm speaking about days, not weeks, or your help will come too late.
Ukrainian officials say more fighting is underway in the east. While Western nations debate any additional sanctions and pledge more aid to Ukraine, the attacks appear to have no end in sight.
This war may last for weeks, but also months, and possibly also for years. And therefore we need to prepare for a long haul.
Gloria Pasmino, KPBS News.
COVID testing protocols are changing at state-run testing sites. KPBS health reporter Matt Hoffman says the move comes as the county is refocusing its vaccination and testing efforts.
San Diego County health officials say they've seen low demand for COVID testing and vaccinations. They've recently closed one vaccination site and are moving operations to county clinics. Those who are looking for COVID tests may also notice some changes at state-funded testing sites. They accept walk-ins, but appointments are suggested and can be made online.
There's 7 of these state-sponsored testing sites across the county. We're at the one in the Linda Vista area. County officials say if you're coming to one of these state-sponsored sites now, you'll first be offered a rapid antigen test. And then if you test positive, they'll offer you an official PCR lab test.
I think someone in my class tested positive, so they want me to get tested just in case.
Arion Medina is a student at the University of San Diego. He's hoping that in the new normal, testing sites like this one will stay open.
I think they should keep it free because, I mean, some people need places to get COVID tests and, like, rapid tests. They're so hard to find, so I think this is good for them to have them.
Despite federal COVID funding running out, county and state officials say they remain committed to providing no-cost testing and vaccinations, but they recognize that many people are getting those services elsewhere.
Even when you pay for a testing site, you have to make an appointment, and you might not get the date and place that you want to get.
La Jolla resident Mary Feifel needs to get tested in order to travel internationally soon. She went through a large healthcare provider, but they didn't have times available that worked for her. She enjoys the flexibility of publicly funded sites.
It just seems like the county sites are spread out over San Diego, and if you don't need an appointment, it's easier to do a walk-in.
And she's grateful that the county offers PCR tests because those are required for air and many other forms of travel.
I'm going to do a PCR. I've done antigen tests at home, so that's not necessary.
The county still operates some vaccination sites, but 90% of doses in San Diego are given out at pharmacies, clinics, and healthcare providers. The need for vaccines could be increasing soon. UC San Diego officials are joining a clinical trial evaluating the need for additional booster doses. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
The Padres are playing their first game of the season tonight, but they're not playing it here. Still, there is a way for the Friar faithful to watch the game at Petco Park. KPBS reporter John Carroll is live in the East Village with more on Fan Fest. John?
Hey, Maya. When my photographer Roland and I got here shortly after 3 this afternoon, there were just a handful of people standing in front of those now open gates. Now that line stretches all the way behind the fence there down the block. It's a little hard to see. Then a second line started forming. which now stretches all the way down as well, and they go down to the end of the block. So there is no doubt that Fan Fest is proving very popular. We have some video to show you of Petco Park from earlier in the day, and this video was shot by our media partner 10 News. You can, if we have the video going, you can see workers sprucing up the park this morning, getting things all spit and polished for this first day, getting it ready for Fan Fest. The event is beginning right now, and there's plenty to do, lots of good stuff to eat and drink. Of course, the game against the Diamondbacks in Arizona will be shown on the big screens and all the other screens around the park, but there are also fun activities for fans of all ages. You can run the bases with your little ones. You can even play catch out on the field. We talked to some fans before the gates opened to see how they're feeling now that the season has finally begun.
I think it's just exciting that we get to come out and be a part of something, and baseball's back. Just really excited to have baseball back.
I'm just glad they came to terms, you know, the players and the owners, and I think a lot of it had to do with a lot of the fans is just dying to just have baseball back and dying to go back to normalcy.
Fan Fest is free, but you still have to have tickets, and those are available on the Padres website. That is, if there are any still available at this point. The game starts at 6:40. The first home game is right here, of course, at Petco Park a week from today against the Atlanta Braves. Live downtown in the East Village, John Carroll, KPBS News.
Thanks, John, for that report. And there is no better way to beat this heat than a dip in the pool. And now, because of a joint effort between the city of San Diego and the school district, there's a brand new community pool in University Heights. KPBS education reporter MG Perez with the big splash this is making.
Members of the University City High School swim team are first in the pool. This pool is now open for everyone.
Well, this is a 25-yard by 25-meter, plus it also has an ADA access and a shallow end for younger swimmers or people with disabilities.
The community pool is placed right between Stanley Middle School and Spreckles Elementary, with a playground, walking trails, and outdoor theater space, too. The San Diego Unified School Board started talking about this in 2014 and worked with the city of San Diego to make it happen.
Living in Southern California, I don't believe it's right for any child to go through our schools without learning how to swim, and this is the first step in terms of making that a reality.
This community pool has been in progress for years. After all, the collaboration between the city and the school district has taken time to find a balance between the fun and the funding. The joint venture was paid for with capital bond money approved by San Diego voters to repair, renovate, and revitalize neighborhood schools. This will be used by students to learn how to swim and play and possibly train for the Olympic Games. The grand opening comes too late for University City High School swimmers who are about to graduate and who have been borrowing lanes lately.
We had to bounce around at different couple community pools, and I wish we had this for our season, but I'm glad to see that it's going to be here for the next kids.
Mia Ryan held the ribbon that was eventually cut to open the pool. She stood in the sweltering heat, happy to do so for her neighborhood. She grew up here and is now a member of San Diego State's swim team.
Seeing this incredibly beautiful pool for the whole community, for all children to not only learn how to swim, but recreationally play in, is just, it leaves me in awe.
Summer in April with the perfect place to cool off. MG Perez, KPBS News.
And it's not just the heat. There was also a wind advisory. And as you can see and hear, the wind's really picking up in this video from Alpine earlier today. But it appears that big changes are on the way. Meteorologist Melissa Constanzer has your forecast.
Well, we are really talking about quite an interesting setup here as we go throughout the week with a cooler trend heading into the end of the weekend. We've, of course, had this near record-setting warmth continuing, and this is going to change for the weekend for us. Shower chances actually get added back into next week as we watch a powerful storm system work into the west. But until then, heat advisory is still in place as we head into your Friday, so be ready. Still very warm, especially for this time of year. As we go through tonight, falling to just 55 for the low. 56 in Escondido, and Mount Laguna holding on to the upper 50s. Transitioning then into tomorrow, still the same story here. Jet stream well to the north, warmth expanding across not just California, but into Oregon, Nevada. So many places here talking about quite a bit of warmth for this time of year. Arizona also dealing with that heat. So as we go through tomorrow, no surprise here, above average. 85 for the high, Escondido 95. And as you work your way into places like Borrego Springs in the mid to upper 90s. So it is really going to be pretty uncomfortable out there, given that it's already April. Things change, though, for us Saturday. Onshore flow for the coast means that most of us get to taper down a little bit, and we await the cold front, which will bring bigger changes heading into next week. So we do get a pattern change here with the numbers going down. For the coast, you can actually see here we go back into the upper 60s on Sunday. Some clouds out there, not a whole lot changing for us as far as temperatures then into Monday, but we will have a few showers get added back into the forecast as we kick off the start of next work week. Inland communities, notice we could see some of those showers on Monday. Otherwise, really the trend is for the next couple of days that temperature decline from the mid 90s back to the lower 80s and then mid 70s by the time we get into Sunday. Mountain locations here looking good as we fall back into the 60s, even 50s by the time we start off next work week. Certainly cooler with some extra clouds and maybe a few gusty winds. Desert communities, it's a slower fall for us, but we do start to see those temperatures go down by Sunday. For KPBS News, I'm AccuWeather meteorologist Melissa Constanzer.
State environmental policies protect white Californians, leaving people of color exposed to more pollution. That is the finding of a UC San Diego study that suggests systemic racism could be behind the inequity. Researchers found that during the pandemic lockdowns, neighborhoods with high Asian and Latino populations experienced disproportionately large declines in air pollution. And that means that the opposite is true when it's business as usual. The study's co-author says it is evidence of environmental regulations favoring predominantly white neighborhoods.
Everything related to sort of how transportation is laid out in California, air traffic pathways, these things that really got dramatically curtailed, that whole system of governance of those emission sources is really tilted in a way that disproportionately affects specifically Hispanic and Asian Californians.
The study found no change in air quality for Black Californians during the shutdowns. Researchers say this suggests power plants, electricity generators, and other emission sources that were not curtailed are regularly exposing these populations to dirtier air. If you think prices at the grocery store are high now, just wait. The Department of Agriculture says you can expect food costs to climb higher, possibly another 4 to 5%. And as for restaurant prices, they will likely go up 6%. Hardest hit? Beef and veal prices. That's up 7%. The avian flu is also causing chicken prices to go up about the same amount. But fresh vegetables are expected to see the smallest change to their current prices. They do their best to stay out of sight of people, so it might surprise you to learn that there are up to 1 million feral cats living in San Diego County. But in one part of the city, there is a unique place that provides care for dozens of these felines. KPBS reporter John Carroll takes us to this sanctuary where cats with nowhere to go find healing and love.
This is probably not what you'd expect to see at the back of an assisted living facility for seniors.
So this is our main cottage. Welcome to Shanti's house.
Christina Hancock founded Shanti's House 5 years ago, and it's not like she didn't have enough to do. She's both a lawyer and a critical care nurse. But then one day she took a wrong turn and found herself face to face with a feral kitten that would change her life. She named her Shanti. She began driving to the neighborhood every day to feed her.
I thought I'll trap her and bring her home, and then I discovered she was tip of the iceberg.
Hancock soon learned there were more than 60 feral cats in the area. She and a handful of volunteers started feeding them, getting them spayed and neutered, caring for their medical needs. But Hancock says she knew that wasn't enough. They needed a place, and she had an idea. She contacted the owners of the assisted living facility and proposed building a cat sanctuary behind the building, and so Shanti's House was born.
We have a ground lease for 12.5 years for this. They gave us the space.
The facility's management knew a good thing when they saw it.
The residents love the cats. We'll come in the afternoon and one of the residents will go, "Sabina hissed at Michael," or they'll say, "Sebastian and Michael were doing somersaults."
So you might be wondering at this point, where is this special place? The location of Shanti's house is a secret. Christina Hancock says if people knew where it was, she's afraid they'd start bringing feral cats here, and they've already got all they can handle. Plus, there is this. The abandonment of cats or any other kind of an animal is a crime. But for the feral cats who are lucky enough to live here, life is good.
So this all happened very organically. First, we built the first cottage to get them out of the rain. Then we're like, let's have a tree house. Then we're like, let's have a waterfall.
The sanctuary is divided into a series of pavilions, each one an oasis of calm, of healing. And when it comes to healing, Shanti's House took a giant step forward a couple of months ago.
So this is the new infirmary that we just built, so cats can go in and out.
But for the cats that don't need medical care, the vibe is still one of healing. Soft, soothing music and wind chimes are in the air. Every need of the cats is taken care of. But that means donations and volunteers are always needed.
We can always use food, kitty litter, and we can use volunteers just to cuddle the kitties that are now tame and want to be cuddled. We are stretched pretty thin.
We didn't see many cats the day we shot this story. Cats tend to sleep during the day, but we were able to catch a glimpse of Sabina, who seems to be wondering what in the world we're doing. Things are always changing at Shanti's House. That's because the goal is to adopt the cats out once they've become tame. But if they remain feral, they can stay here for the rest of their lives. Christina Hancock hopes other people follow her model for a feral cat sanctuary. If you want more information or to make a donation, just go to their website, shantishouse.org. There, you'll also see a lot of pictures of the feline residents and the volunteers who transformed this previously unused area into the place of beauty and love that it is today. John Carroll, KPBS News.
Acrobatics, theater, and community resources are just some of the offerings at Fern Street Circus. KPBS Big City Heights reporter Jacob Ayers says the program offers free classes for City Heights kids, and their mission goes beyond the circus.
Keep your arms up. Let's go.
Sandra Galindo is an acrobatic instructor with Fern Street Circus, a nonprofit arts organization that's been serving families in City Heights for 31 years. They offer an after-school circus arts program and public performances at neighborhood parks, all offered free of charge. They've also been partnering with local schools to bring kids out to the circus during the school day. Galindo is teaching those kids some gymnastic basics.
This class for them is really important. You know, they get all the energy out, all the stress out, and it also teaches them to be part of a team, to communicate with their friends, to learn new things, you know, and to forget the stress that is at home.
Fern Street Circus Executive Director John Hyken says they use their arts education programs and performances to tackle important social issues like healthcare and immigration.
We take on serious topics and try to approach them in a way that's lighthearted, but doesn't diminish the importance and even the pain of things.
The circus also offers community resources for families with children in the program. Ana Gonzalez's daughter is one of those children. She says the organization gives her daughter a safe place to deal with the anxiety she's been facing during the pandemic.
And during the pandemic, everything was closed.
And when we have the opportunity to keep coming to the circus, even with the precaution that we have, it was for her the most happy place because she can see her friends, she can do activities, she can be out of the house.
Clown instructor Catalina Tapia says physical theater helps kids get around language barriers and learn to be adaptable in all aspects of life.
It doesn't matter if you want to be a clown, if you want to be an acrobat or in the circus. If you're a lawyer, a doctor, and you know how to laugh at yourself and you know how to like stay alert and present, that's very important.
Fern Street Circus's Spring 2022 neighborhood tour kicks off this weekend at the Outdoor Circus Community Center in City Heights. Information about showtimes and programs is online at fernstreetcircus.com. Jacob Ayer, KPBS News.
Hong Kong superstar Michelle Yeoh has finally been given an American starring role to showcase her talents. KPBS film critic Beth Accomando has a review of Everything Everywhere All at Once, which opens this weekend.
Michelle Yeoh kicks the multiverse into submission in Everything Everywhere All at Once. The 59-year-old Hong Kong action superstar finally has her American breakthrough film to showcase not just her martial arts skills, but her dramatic chops and precision comic timing. Yeoh plays Evelyn Wang, who starts the film with IRS problems.
Mrs. Wang, are you with us? I am paying attention.
And the film requires that we pay attention as Evelyn's problems take on an existential dimension. An alternate universe version of her husband informs her that the future of the multiverse depends on her. Written and directed by the Daniels, individually known as Dan Kwan and Daniel Scheinert, the film comes at you with chaotic energy and sucks you in like a black hole. The Daniels describe themselves as millennials who grew up on the internet, and the film reflects that. But Yeoh's performance gives the film an anchoring humanity that makes us care, even though the universe tells us that nothing matters.
Wow, that was really good.
The film subjects us to sensory overload, but also displays a lot of heart and humor, much of that provided by Kei-Hu Kwan as Evelyn's husband. It'll leave you breathless, confused, entertained, and amazed. Words can't really describe it, so you just have to go experience it. But one thing is clear, Michelle Yeoh is a force to be reckoned with. Beth Accomando, KPBS News.
And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Good night.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley. And by the following: by viewers like you. Thank you.